I think we should be live any second here.
All right.
Let me refresh. And we'll let you know. Guys, are we live? Give us a thumbs up if we're live. We are. Awesome. All right, we're gonna start with a wonderful trailer. I'm excited because we're gonna be doing a private screening, guys. We got 107. He's hiding out somewhere around the world. He's got very important missions he's on that he doesn't talk about, and I'm sure I can sort of speculate why. But we have a wonderful trailer for you folks who haven't seen our second trailer. We're gonna play it right now. It's absolutely a work of art, and I think you've seen it, Juanito, haven't you? Oh, and I think he dropped. So we'll have to wait for him to get back. Hopefully he's got some stable internet, right? Always helps. Okay. Be patient, guys. Same link coming in. There you are. What happened? Can you hear us? Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Juanito. One of those days. Hi, Carol. Our wonderful co-producer of Dear Mr. President is in the house. Time is charm.
Yeah, I was concerned that Nina would be calling while we were doing the show, so I thought I better tell him, "Don't call me, don't call me." Sometimes he sees the text, sometimes he doesn't.
Nino finally gave me his freaking video. Can you imagine? After battling with him, yeah. Can you imagine?
Now we're StreamYard. I'm telling you, painful.
Really?
I don't know what the issue is, but StreamYard does not like England.
Interesting. I did not know that. All right, let's share the screen real
So
quick.
I've connected to Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the internet. I'm not on
Okay.
my phone. I've tried. Let me switch back to the phone because we're getting killed on the internet side. So
Okay.
let me try the phone side. All right, I'll call you right back.
You got it.
I'll stop the internet.
I guess while we wait for him, we'll play the video real quick, the trailer, and he'll know what it is when he comes in. Documentary is going to be coming out to the independent theaters and all the. Oh, here he is now. Hold on. Okay.
StreamYard is super.
Is that better?
StreamYard just wants all the bandwidth in the world, and it's a bandwidth hog, and it does not give you that much better stuff. The Zoom, I've done about 20 calls this week
Yeah, but
using
Zoom doesn't let you go
StreamYard.
live. That's the problem.
Yeah, I'm just telling you
That's
that
the problem.
freaking StreamYard is just a problem.
Yeah, there's another
Zoom,
one that's a
perfect.
competitor of StreamYard. I forget the name of it. I think might be a better choice. We'll see. All right, let me share my screen real quick.
Yeah.
You see my screen?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Here we go.
Dear Mr. President.
Dear Mr. President.
Dear Mr. President. Dear Mr. President.
Dear Mr. President.
Dear Mr. President, when did freedom of speech become a crime? In the land of the free, voices are vanishing, opinions are policed, truth is under fire. They say it's about safety, I say it's about silence. Who's watching the watchmen? Who's filtering your feed? Who benefits from your silence? From the classroom to the newsroom, from Silicon Valley to Washington, D.C. Who decides what you can say?
Censorship.
Censorship. Censorship.
The censorship.
Censorship. It's a much bigger threat to democracy than anything that we've seen in this country in the last 4 years, in the last 40 years.
Our First Amendment is under assault, not just by big tech, but by government agencies. Voices are being silenced.
A world without censorship would mean we can freely expose the elections and, of course, child trafficking. I believe the American spirit would kick in if they had access to the real information.
We've had channels taken down from nearly every form of social media. We knew when you uttered the term fake news that you were up to something different. We're honored to contribute to this documentary on censorship.
I have only one thing to ask. I just only want to see some accountability from somebody. Just pull that pin and throw that grenade already, buddy. That's all every American wants to see, is just some accountability for the crimes against us all. Thank you, sir. And long live the Republic.
We'll show the other video towards the end or towards the middle, being that we're limited on bandwidth here. In the meantime, let me remove this. All right, Juanito. Listen, it's supposedly out there all over the internet, all over the news that they're going for Obama. This is not as cut and dry as just going to arrest any Joe Blow. This is an ex-president of the United States. Allegedly, he's not born here, allegedly this, allegedly that, but nobody really knows for sure until they prove all the evidence. Supposedly, according to Galbert, they got this, down to, lock, stock, and barrel. They got him dead sentence to rights. And supposedly now we're all waiting for the arrest. You got Black Lives Matter that'll be triggered. You got brown shirts that'll be triggered. This is not that easy. Paint the picture for us of what we're looking at.
Well, the bullshit that you can't arrest Obama is just that bullshit. If he's committed crimes after he left the presidency, or if he committed crimes during the presidency that are outside the core mission of his office, the job description, as president, then yeah, he can still be arrested and tried, and he will be. And as far as the other stuff, where he was born like that, he didn't have any control over that. He wasn't born in the U.S. He was born in Canada at the Peace Arch Hospital in Vancouver, BC. And his mother, Stanley Ann Dunham, as you've heard it, is not his real mother.
Mm-hmm.
She was her parents were working for FBI and CIA as assets. Toots, by the way, mom, she was the banker later in life for the Marcoses out of the Philippines. A huge operation as the Philippines transitioned away from the Marcoses, which were placed there by the CIA running the country. And they came to the U.S. with $10 billion and lived in Hawaii for the remainder of their life. And the banker was Obama's grandmother, Toots, a supposed grandmother. Stanley Ann Dunham was in the family business. Her first real engagement was as did the photo layouts for a sex and masochism magazine that was being done just like Playboy, funded by the same people, by the way, that funded Hugh Hefner for Playboy to set people up for blackmail, honeypotting, the whole schmear, everything, just like Epstein. And Frank Marshall Davis was the person that Stanley Ann Dunham's father was monitoring, surveilling, direct undercover with as a communist living in Hawaii. And so Stanley Ann Dunham's dad, who had done work during World War II as an undercover on the Boeing assembly line there in Kansas on the B-17s, looking for any German sympathizers within the workforce at Boeing. And reported as a German sympathizer by other employees, but kept on. He was the one that was providing intel, and it was an asset his entire life, adult life, for the FBI. And so Stanley Ann Dunham picked up the family business, and when they needed to park a baby who had an American father, mother who was Indonesian, in the system somewhere for a plant, she was the one that picked up the baby. By the way, just a little aside, I've told audiences this before, we won't get distracted with it, but later in life, when Barack Obama's mother, Stanley Ann Dunham, died supposedly of uterine cancer while he was, in the senator, coming into the job as senator in Illinois. She later reemerges Supergirl. She had never met Loretta Fuddy, the accountant for a religious group called Subud, based also out of Indonesia and Hawaii and Chicago and LA and Langley, a cult that was kind of hijacked and used for cover in Indonesia. Loretta Fuddy was actually Stanley Ann Dunham all of her life. She was Supergirl. She changed from her Clark Kent outfit into her Supergirl outfit and shows up all over the world where wild, bizarre things were happening. And so Obama can't be held responsible for a lot of that. He was born into that life and had to fend for himself and figured out a way to survive, but was essentially recruited, brought into the family business, and stayed with it, paid his dues, and made it all the way to the presidency. So the person, by the way, that covered, created all the false histories. Thank you. You're a babe. Thank you. That created all the false histories for him was Brennan himself. Brennan was in charge of creating false identities, histories, school, history. So he created the false history that Obama went to Columbia University, other people who went, and he was a political science major, other people who went to school with the exact same major at end graduation time as Obama said they never, ever, ever saw him. Michael Medved, the radio host, has talked extensively about that because he was in the exact class for the exact 4 years as Obama supposedly was. Never saw the guy. Impossibility. There's only like 23 students in that major during that time period. So, and they all worked together. They had to study together and do their reports and like that. Never happened. And then the Harvard history with Obama. Brennan created that, laid a pathway with the financing like that with the Saudis. And then where does Brennan go later in life? He becomes the station chief in Saudi Arabia. So a very crucial spot. Obama got brought into the family business and never could separate, and probably would have been lethal if he did at some point. So I do understand Obama. He is a traitor. He is working with traders, including a whole bunch of people over at CIA and Senior Executive Service, the nemesis of America. That's the most difficult place that we're going to have to deal with before all of this is over. And it's going to be gut-wrenching for the country. And I think they have a few tricks up their sleeve before we get there. Near-death experience for America. But we'll make it. We'll make it through because God will not allow what they want for America or the world. So
Yeah, totally understood.
that's a quick thumbnail.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But the reality is, yes, you're right. Yes, anybody can be arrested, but the reality is because this guy has a lot of loyal followers, so is Hillary Clinton, unfortunately, still. But you got Antifa, you got Black Lives Matter, you got poverty law.
Oh, you know what? Give me a break. Everybody keeps talking about that. It's painful. When the moment comes, Americans will understand what's going on. That's why you're having this slow roll to get to where we're going to, so that they will understand. The few that come out and want to protest, stomp their feet, whine, piss in the street, it'll be a very manageable number, okay? The wet dream of these monsters is that America will go into some kind of civil war. The reality is, of course, and the Obamas made the movie about America going into a civil war. That's not going to be allowed to happen. In fact, let me just add one thing. I've mentioned this before, but it may be that a lot of the audience hasn't heard it or doesn't remember. In the testimony before the House concerning the events of January 6th, there was testimony concerning what happened with Trump and depositions concerning what happened with Trump in the lead up to cause the January 6th events to happen. And if you remember, Trump had this executive order from his first term, September 23rd or something like that. It wasn't 23rd, it was September 10th, maybe, Executive Order 13848. And that executive order said that for all future federal elections, that all the assets, utilities of Homeland Security would be applied to watch for any foreign intervention, interference in all future federal elections from that point forward. So, and then within 45 days after any federal election, they had to provide an interim report. Homeland Security did, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, what the office that Tulsi Gabbard holds now, had to provide an interim report to the president and to a couple of relevant members of Congress concerning any information of foreign interference in a federal election. So 45 days after the November 3rd, 2020 election was December 18th of 2020. And on that date, at the end of the day, in the early evening or mid-evening, several patriots showed up and got through a little twist of things, got to go in and meet Trump. It was not a scheduled appointment. It was a tour of the White House that Garrett Ziegler had set up, who was an aide there in the White House. And you have to picture the scene at the White House. The place is nearly deserted. Everybody's gone. All they had was the Secret Service around. Everybody's abandoning ship. They're all leaving because Trump's lost the election. And it's just a bizarre Twilight Zone type of a scene. So into the evening in this relatively quiet White House with this tour, here's the president in his office, and Patrick Byrne, my associate, good friend, General Flynn, who President Trump had pardoned, and Joe Flynn, his brother, Sidney Powell, the attorney at the time, who was getting all sorts of press related to things that had been going on all during the Trump presidency. And she's, there to try and figure out a way to help out. Rudy Giuliani, Trump's personal attorneys beyond that, they're all there, and they get sucked into this meeting. And what they're advising Trump is, Mr. President, you must recognize that an insurrection is happening. Why? Because the 45-day report, 3 days early on the 42nd day after the election, the person who is supposed to release that report as the Director of Homeland Security, or Office of Director of National Intelligence, he doesn't do it. And he says to the press that, all these agency heads aren't cooperating. So they won't give me their reports on interference, so I can't do my report. So I don't know what to do. And so I guess there's not going to be a report at the 45th day. Well, everybody in the country is watching, waiting for that report to show up. Is it going to show up? At the end of the 45th day, nothing came out all day. The president didn't get anything from Radcliffe, Director Radcliffe, R-A-D, C-L-I-F-F. And he says, I can't do anything. Now, my personal opinion, he should have provided an interim report on schedule and noted that these agency heads, and identified them specifically, refused to provide the information from their departments concerning any foreign interference. Instead, he provided no report at all. He was holding it. Now, who were those agency heads? Okay. Who were the people at FBI, CIA, and it wasn't just the directors, it was people down through the staff. There was an insurrection, an insubordination. National Reconnaissance Office, CISA, providing the digital security. All the different agencies that had responsibility to provide intel concerning foreign interference, and they all stood down and wouldn't provide it. Who made them God? Who made them president? Like, that information was theirs personally to withhold. And what was the basis? They were still saying that Trump was a asset under the control of Putin. Okay? Russia. All that time later, they were still on that same game. And it was treasonous, and we will all find out just how treasonous. You're already getting the early stuff. Excuse me. All the travel, you pick stuff up once in a while. It was treasonous not to have provided that data, which did include information of foreign interference. And they didn't provide it to the elected President, Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America. They refused to provide it. Those people that were in Trump's office said, Mr. President, this is an insurrection. These people are not just insubordinate, they're treasonous traitors. You have got to allow a insurrection document to be created. See, what Lincoln had, that was the last time it was done. He had a document put together that essentially identified the treasonous, traitorous, insurrectionist activities of the people in the South, the people were office holders, to divide the United States and to go against the president in the election like that. And then the war was on. They were advising Trump that he needed to do exactly the same thing as Lincoln did and go after these treasonous traitors right then and there. Trump eventually, after many hours, just shy of 5 hours, agreed to go ahead and have Sidney Powell come back to the White House in the morning and begin the process, got her a White House pass, and begin the process of writing what would be an insurrection document that the president could sign, freezing the election results from going forward, stopping the January 6th vote, and forcing a review of the election. President Trump initially agreed, and everybody left the White House believing that that was going to start, and they were slapping each other on the back. They succeeded. They got president to, get out of his funk and move forward and accept that he's going to have to do this fight for the country. But then in the January 6th testimony in Congress, long months later, there was an interesting piece of testimony. After those folks left the White House, President Trump consulted military senior counsel, general officers. They're not identified fully. And in the course of that discussion, and a lot of people at the time thought that Mark Meadows, who was the chief of staff to the president, had somehow done this. He just did what the president told him to do. After the president met in the wee hours of the morning on December 19th, the power number, in the White House with the generals, they consulted with him and told him that if he created an Insurrection Act document and signed it, that it would do the same thing as it did for Lincoln and lead America into a civil war. And that by late spring, early summer, it'd be a full-fledged civil war in America with states taking sides and cutting off commerce, state to state to state. And
let's hope he doesn't lose internet. Fingers crossed. And he did. He'll be back. You got your back.
okay. With all that in mind, Trump, in the wee hours after meeting with general staff, asked Mark Meadows to revoke Sidney Powell's pass to come in the White House, because even creating the document would cause legal problems if he didn't actually decide to sign it. So they didn't even start the process of signing of creating a document that he could then sign. And then he asked the American people to show up on January 6th to make sure that what Congress was going to do wasn't done in a vacuum on January 6th, to try to get them to, think again on certifying this election that was totally fraudulent. That didn't happen. And everything that played out since, all of the drama that you've seen, you're now seeing the rest of the story. that in fact there was a coup. There was a orchestrated series of events to cover up a stolen election and to put people into power that were not the will of the American people. But President Trump and the people behind him, those that invited him to run, had gamed this out. And as horrible, as difficult, as gut-wrenching as all this interim period of years has been, you had to let them play their cards, play their hand. And even though America has suffered tremendously, treasonous, traitorous actions have taken place, at least people were still able to get gas in the car and take the kids to the soccer game. People still had lights on and heat on in order to live. The factories still worked, the money, the ATMs worked, things kept rolling. That was better than having the country go into some type of cranial rectal inversion and contemplate their navel, and then the whole country just folds into itself and is destroyed because you can't do commerce, you can't do political. America could not have survived, or what did survive wouldn't look like the America we have now or ever have had, if an insurrection act had been signed and you went straight to war with all these political entities and powers, because there wasn't enough information out to show the interference, the stolen election, and to identify all the players involved. How, where? Think of everything that's come out over the last several years, and the connections in the computing world, in the political world, and out across the world itself. We've learned so much that we had to learn. Don't shoot till you see the whites of their eyes. And that's exactly what's transpired. And in the course of all that, the crimes that Obama himself has committed all the way through this, plus these various agency directors and personnel down through the ranks. Okay. I was in a meeting here a few weeks ago there in DC, and in gaming out a very specific thing within one 3-letter agency. The guys kind of all looked at each other, you know, how many people can we trust there? And from the insiders, maybe 6. Huge agency of government, 6. That's all we can trust. That's all we can trust. And we all knew why. There's stuff coming. You can't. I got one thing that I want to tell this audience about so bad that I can't tell you yet. But when you hear it, I know I will not. When you hear what transpired, you're just going to be shocked. You're going to be totally. Really? People could do that? People in a government agency could do that? No way. Are you serious? Yeah, I'm serious. That many of them? Totally. In collusion with each other. The stuff that you are going to learn, and I hope that one we'll get to talk about sooner than later, much sooner, is going to it's just going to gobsmack you. You're just going to be like, in a communist country, they couldn't pull off what they did here.
Yeah.
Okay. What American could be safe with certain things that happen? I want to tell you so bad, but let's hold tight for just a little bit.
Yeah.
So you throw Obama into that mix. Is he the worst of the worst? He's somebody's puppet. You understand? Hillary. Obama was going to try to puppet Hillary. What was the whole Pat Byrne thing about? They set up Hillary, got her to agree to accept an $18 million bribe. Got it recorded. They got it in the can. They got her. But then they didn't proceed with any prosecution. They didn't stop her candidacy. Why? The Obama presidency, they had her to blackmail her.
Sure.
Well, was Obama running it? No. Obama himself was somebody else's tool that was being run. SES, 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 SES. Same thing with Comey. And Comey, by the way, we've talked about this before numerous times. He's the one that brought in a couple of female officers, and another woman was present and has actually created an affidavit, has sworn it. She is now an official whistleblower within the FBI system. She was present when Comey actively directed those women to go into the Trump campaign as honeypots and find out anything they could on Trump that might help them in the fight against Trump. And that was all the way back right after Trump announced he was running for president. Think about that. And it was never done officially in the FBI system. In other words, they were not tasked. There was no crossfire hurricane in existence at the time. It was a off the books project, totally illegal for the director to do in the way he did it. And that's all going to come out. These guys are going to get kicked in the ass so hard, it won't just leave a mark, okay? It'll break bones.
Interesting. You know, I'm going to ask probably the number one question, because I know it's on my mind as well. When do you think the arrest will go down? Because they got everything they need to go right now. But do you think it's going to happen in the middle of the night while he's sleeping? Is it going to be dramatic? Is it going to be a SWAT team with television cameras rolling? How do you think it's going to unfold?
Well, I don't think it starts with Obama. We do have testimony that occurs. Yeah, no, I don't think that's so at all. We do have testimony that has to happen, Congress, depositions, statements, whatever, mid-September all the way through mid-October on the Russia stuff. I've said to your audience and others that I believe that the arrests start with the Russia stuff and then move to the 2020 election. The first or the date for Hillary, she's the last in the series. So they're going to get all the peripheral people and work their way up all the way to the core. Who started the Russia thing? It was Hillary. Who did Obama agree they were going to go ahead and support in her Russia bullshit? Hillary.
Mm-hmm.
Hillary's where that started with her campaign, the Perkins Coie law firm, recruiting the Brit spies to put this thing together and to pump it out. So right here in the city of London, just a few blocks from where I'm at right now. So when they did that, Hillary's the one that has to explain what her role was. Sorry, I had a little bit of a frog in my throat. So they're going to get all the people around her and then eventually end up take her down on or about October 29th in whatever year they do it for a bunch of reasons. And so that's right in that zone. Once she's done her testimony, committed herself, the rest takes on a life of its own. Mm-hmm. And that has to do with this, you know, she's a witch. I mean, she's an actual card-carrying member of the Wing Coven out there in New York, and then, you know, honorary member or whatever out on the West Coast in California. And in that type of cult, they're like in a whole different, you know, multiple days before they're actually.
I knew that was going to happen.
Oh, are we getting through on this broadcast? We got good enough bandwidth. Am I coming?
Yeah, we can keep going. Don't worry about it. They'll have to fill in the blanks. Welcome to live television.
it's
I want to
painful
thank you publicly
because I've
for
got
being
good
part of
bars
our
here.
movie, by the way. I want to thank you publicly for being part of our movie, dear Mr. President. We got the piece that we want in there. I don't know if there's any other pieces in there, but maybe there'll be a piece in here. Who knows that the editors might want to add. But thank you for that. I appreciate that immensely. So anyway, I mean, look, do you think so? You're saying McCabe, Clapper, Comey, all those guys are going to go first. Then they're going to go after Hillary Clinton and Obama. Is that what you're saying? The internal guys?
Well, yeah, they're going to let everybody get on the record one last time with all the documents that are released now and say where they're at. They're going to bring Hillary up last. She can Fifth Amendment it as much as she wants. It won't help her. And then on to the arrests. And they won't, they may start with all the Justice Department stuff and the grand juries and things like that. But these are crimes of treason. They are not crimes that are befitting going before a civilian court. And because a lot of the material is stuff that, you have to kind of understand it from a certain level. So you're going to have a court that's able to actually see some of the evidence and understand it. Think of a civil jury with some of the intelligence information that's going to be presented. Some of it has to be presented in a classified setting, and the public will not get know certain details of it. It's not appropriate, and the average citizen is just not equipped from a life experience side to grasp the magnitude, the connections in a lot of what's there. So, and with such weighty matters of treason for this kind of a thing, it'll be in a military court. And so these people that are lawyering up, they're seeking out lawyers that actually have defended in a military setting before. And that's kind of a common thing. The law firms are finding guys that have that kind of history. They're going to Gitmo, okay, and it may be, presented as going through the federal system right up to the day that it's not. So take it to the bank. So yeah. Anyway. Next question.
Earlier, I know this is really important. It's really not that important. I know there's a lot of people that would argue with us. You said that he was born in Canada. I, heard a million people say he was born in Kenya. So there's
it doesn't matter if you heard a million. He wasn't born in Kenya. That's part of the goose chase that they wanted to send everybody on. Okay, it's like murder on the Orient Express. Who killed him? Well, everybody. They all had a piece of it. Okay. It's like the Kennedy assassination. Who killed him? Everybody. They were all in on it. They all had an angle. No, it was Franken the CIA. No, it was the FBI. No, it was Israel. It's like 9/11 again. Same thing. It's like look at Epstein Island. People are fixated. It's Epstein. Hello, excuse me. Hold on. Stop. Who was really orchestrating this? You had CIA that was being represented on the American side by Bill Clinton. He was the one that was calling his buddies and friends, roping them in and getting them to join him in going down and taking a little vacation at Epstein Island, where they got set up, honeypotted, blackmailed, whatever, to assist on certain things. You had Ghislaine Maxwell into the Maxwell crowd, who was setting up people all across the Commonwealth, but specifically Jewish people primarily, and with the Mossad connection there in through the family. And then the one that nobody ever hears about, you just don't hear about it, but who's in the picture with Gouffre, who just passed away here a while ago, Virginia Gouffre. It's Randy Andy, Prince Andrew, third in line to the throne. Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that important? Because each of them were ringers. They were bringing people in. They roped people in. Come join me. Let's go to the island. My friend's jet's over here. And people accepted it. And they accepted it in those cases primarily because they were setting up their green revolution. And they needed people to go along on the research and university stuff to set the whole world up for the green revolution, to buy into it, to force this hidden tax that wasn't going to stay hidden very long into every area of your life as a carbon tax, every area of your life. Okay. And he was handling that part of the roping. And they did a little trading back and forth. Well, I can bring this person in there in the US. I can bring that person in and there in Spain. Okay. That's what they were doing. And it was a setup operation for that. Well, it's the same thing in all these different areas. They're all tag teaming over and over again. When you say that it's only Obama, you miss the much bigger picture. This is 1,000 times bigger than just Obama. But he's the president. He was so powerful. He got a house in D.C. He was managing it from right there. I know it was Obama. No, you don't. Obama was a puppet his entire life from the time he was a little kid. Even the Kenya records are totally manufactured. I'll tell you something that nobody in this audience probably even knows. Those pictures of Obama at the airport with his dad, when he's a young boy and his dad comes to Hawaii to visit, totally photoshopped, guaranteed, set the pixel counters loose, prove me wrong. The pictures of Obama sitting on the bench at Columbia University with his grandparents, totally photoshopped, every single one. Almost all the photos, with the exception of a couple out of Indonesia, with him at a Subud conference, with his mom and guitars and all that.
Excuse me for 1 second, Benito. Excuse me for 1 second. Hey, guys, there's a couple of rude people in here. If you don't like it, get the fuck out of here, okay? Get the fuck out of here. We don't need you, all right? Be respectful, or I'm going to boot you out. Thank you. Keep going.
So, and by the way, Obama's mother, Stanley Ann Dunham, she didn't die. She was the treasurer for Subud. Somebody's got to run the money. And later in life, she reappears after she's supposedly dead. The only competition Christ has for resurrections has been CIA. See who else shows up now, and they didn't get to do it. We figured out the trick. But the point is that she shows up as a woman named Loretta Fuddy. Well, she'd been Loretta Fuddy all along, Supergirl, and she's in Hawaii. And what does Loretta Fuddy do? She's the one that releases the birth certificate. The governor ran for governor in Hawaii on the premise that he was going to find the birth certificate and release it, and he couldn't find it. And tells a reporter there in Hawaii they can't find the birth certificate, and it's an impossibility. They just don't know what to say. A few months later, Loretta gets on. She's now the director of the Hawaii Department of Public Health, and magically they push a few desks around, move a safe or two, and it was right there all along. Bullshit. And put it out. Then after she's in there for a bit, she plays her part. It's not catching attention. She gets on a plane over to Molokai, does a special little thing for the health stuff with the people over there at the leper colony. And then she's flying out. The plane has engine problem, completely freezes up, does a water landing. And as a result of everything happening, they survive the landing, but she dies, drowns. Total fabric, total hoax. 1,000 times over a hoax. And she's pulled out of there in a very mysterious way and disappears into the sunset. that's one of the things where misuse of military assets is a prosecutable thing, because it was a hoax for political reasons, and Obama will get charges related to that, his actions involving that, and a number of military people also with that ruse.
Yeah.
So I don't have time to spend hours on that, but
I know you
there's
hit
hours
on Jeffrey Epstein earlier. Do you feel that he's still alive? I mean, what does Juan need to? Does anybody ever ask you that question on live television? If you feel he's alive, or do you think he's an asset that's so important that they would not kill, and they're holding him the time for whatever trial?
It's not fair. So I probably shouldn't answer, because you're asking for speculating, and I don't speculate on that particular one. Enjoy the show.
You don't have any inside information?
I wouldn't have to speculate if I answered the question.
Right. Yeah. Well, maybe you're sworn to secrecy too. That's a possibility, right?
I wouldn't have to speculate.
I love it. You're awesome. So, but anyway, how about this Maxwell lady that they put in a minimum security prison? What's that all about? Why did they put her? Does somebody wants her to get off, to get unalived?
No, I think it's a little different there. We use the conditions of incarceration to help people clear their minds and think through what they want to do. And, if you're going to say it's all gone with Jeffrey Epstein, well, you still got Ghislaine around. How could it all be gone? And she's been convicted of certain stuff. So, let her say what she's got to say. You might be able to get all sorts of clarity. But, even there, let me just think if I want to do this. I think I do. There's a lawsuit that was filed here in England a week ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was accepted by the court. It started down in Antigua, and got some traction down there. In the U.S. courts, all of the efforts to bring certain information forward was successful 2 decades ago. And you have to think about this. And this case was in the Southern District of New York. And Southern District in New York is a problem area, very politicized within the policing and prosecution. Remember, that's where Wall Street is, and that's where Epstein, with all the stuff, was being tried and getting the sweet deals. When Pam Bondi sent the note over to Kash Patel right after Kash was sworn in, she said, the president wants me to release all the Epstein stuff. I haven't got the files. I've asked for it from FBI. They send me over an 1.5-inch sheaf of papers that has nothing in it. It's all bullshit. I need the actual, evidence, everything. And I want it here, and I want it now. So Kash, go get it. And then, by the way, the FBI personnel that are holding that evidence and haven't released it, even though they had a valid order to release it, I want to know what you're going to do disciplinary-wise in dealing with those people that think that they are in charge when they're just the employees here, okay? They're not management. So let me know what you're going to do to deal with them. So Kash grabs a crew. They go down, Tiger team it, kick the door in, Southern District in New York, give us everything. Where's it at? And they bring back, it said it was a truckload. Then it was said later, well, it was a couple truckloads. And they get all the stuff out of there. They're trying to go through it to turn it over to Pam Bondi over at Justice Department. As they're going through stuff to inventory it, they find out that there's receipts for stuff that was left at another location. They go back to the FBI's old offices, and they find this stuff hidden away, a bunch of stuff hidden away in the FBI offices. as though this is okay and legal and everything else. They had hid it away. And they grab that stuff and they get it all over to Bondi, and it's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of all sorts of, horrific things. But you have to understand that those guys in the Southern District of New York had it, some of it for 2 decades. And so they had enough time and there was enough at stake to kind of change things around, sift a little stuff in there that was a problem, get rid of some stuff that might have been too obvious, and create a trail that looked like you could tie Trump into this somehow. Okay? You got one picture of Trump with Epstein. You got 90,000 pictures of him with, Randy Andy and Clinton, all these other people that they brought in, and they focus on one thing. Why? Because Trump has the power to force things through the way he has. And so they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. It's all out of Southern District of New York. But there's a case. And what's interesting about this case, when you get into it and actually understand what's going on, it was found that child porn was being disseminated and spread around the world through the same systems that were stealing music and videos. If you remember the Napster stuff and similar, and where videos were being grabbed by people and passed around, and it didn't have certain features and filtering in the way it was being passed around inside their electronic systems. It was peer-to-peer. That once it got out, it's gone, right? It can be passed all over the place. And what's important in that, how do these people make money if they're doing that? Well, you get advertisers and you get stuff that's, in the hubs where this stuff gets passed around. And then the stuff that actually gets passed, well, I don't have responsibility. I didn't have a filter on it. I couldn't see it. So in this case that was there in New York, in the Southern District of New York, they actually got enough findings that the judge eventually said, okay, you know what, this is illegal and it's stealing money from all the entertainers on the legitimate stuff. The actors and actresses, the movie studios, the radio, or the recording artists and things like that. And so you got to stop this. And by the way, there's no proper controls to stop it from being used within these systems to pass around child pornography. So without those controls in place to protect the public from the dissemination of child pornography, you have to fix those systems so that they can't pass around stolen, misappropriated music and videos, etc., without the fees and releases and everything else being put in there. And you have to. And why I want to tie this to what you're doing, Mel. You will get taken down off a platform because you put a couple seconds clip of somebody in your system that is protected, copyrighted material. And so you have a little bit of free speech, fair use. And if you exceed that, then they'll get your video taken down off of YouTube or anybody else, right? Sure. They're right there to block this stuff.
You lost your voice, bud.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize. I had somebody calling and I had to send them to, we have a conference going and somebody's at the conference wanted to dial me in. But anyway, they're right there to stop you from using any of that other stuff, and they know exactly what's going on. but the filters are not filtering for child pornography. The court said that those specific platforms, which there was numerous, but there was one.
Somebody calling you again.
There you go. I'm sorry.
Okay. No worries.
That they had to stop and shut down that system. The court ordered that CBS, one of the four big ones, had to shut that down over at CBS Interactive. And it was believed by everybody, it's done, it's over, it's gone. In the court filings, right now, outside of the United States, because they couldn't get it resolved inside the United States, and even after a court order, it never stopped. They were continuing to put out porn, and that's the allegation in the court filings, that CBS Interactive and CBS, the network, is profiting from child. At the time in 2010, I believe it was, that they were operations of the names and everything else. They couldn't do it anymore. They had 67,200 child pornography videos within their dissemination system. And by getting people to come in, they could get advertising, things like that. And it was a gateway, and not now, by the way, into these other areas. You didn't have to go to the, dark web to get this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You just had to go to CBS. And so that fight's going strong, and it's just now gaining some momentum. Even me talking about it's going to probably get people, coming out of the woodwork to find out, the truth of it. Okay. But it's going to be a hell of a fight, and could be very difficult for anybody involved in the CBS system who's profiting from this. And the executives that know where the money's coming from know that they were ordered to take this down. It didn't get taken down. And there's no filters in there to protect the public from the dissemination of pornographic videos. And that was all decided. Think about that. That was all decided 15 years ago, and it's still going. If it was 67,200 child porn videos, then has it remained static? Is that all there are, or is it grown? It's grown. That's my,
How rough is it going to get out there, Juanito, in the next couple of months? We still got some rough waters ahead of us.
Well, again, let's not gloss over this too fast. You want the president, and what we're asking the president to do, which he can do, is to order that the investigations go forward that would expose the people who are choking down our ability with our First Amendment rights in these broadcasting things. Let me tell you something that just happened that you probably have already talked to your clients, that your listeners about, that I don't think people have fully grasped. President Trump did an executive order. It was an executive order. It was a directive that goes into the Treasury system. Into the banking system. You have a Federal Open Market Committee that is this liaison between the Federal Reserve and the Treasury and all that. Anyway, directing the banks and the banking system to stop essentially debanking people because their political views might endanger the bank to litigation. Okay, this debanking practice that's been worldwide. President Trump was debanked. Barron couldn't even get a checking account. because he was tied to a political. Think about this. Barron doesn't say anything politically, isn't in the public. His mom won't let him be seen that way. He goes in to open up a bank account, and they won't let him open up a bank account because he's too political. He didn't do anything wrong. Melania talks about it in her book. President Trump debanked, and it caused him a lot of difficulty. I was debanked. I've got a number of other people that were debanked. I have a couple of Mar-a-Lago member friends that were debanked, and it was brutal. Okay, so President Trump just put out this directive that's not going to the banking committee. That ain't happening anymore. Find ways to protect against it and put an end to it. What you're asking for within the social media is very, very similar. People would say, well, these are private companies and they're doing whatever. Yeah, watch. He can inject himself into what's going on in the social media. And if they're going to shut down free speech, they're going to get their hands slapped hard once Trump enters. And that's what you're asking for. Now, as a counterpoint to that, all of the controls to stop you from free speech, and then over there at CBS, after all the litigation related to the peer-to-peer social media file sharing and like that, and specifically in the judge's orders, it talks about the child pornography and the ability to disseminate child pornography through this CBS Interactive component and other stuff, and it's morphed. It's become all sorts of different things now. And they didn't get their hands slapped, and they're still doing it, and it's child pornography, and they're making a profit from it. Doesn't that seem like before they worry about whether or not you said, COVID shot and fraud or something, they'll let the porn video through, and they don't have ways to censor that? Of course they do, and other platforms have to do that, but they get away with it. On whose watch does that happen? Okay, so they do clearly have the ability and the responsibility to stop certain things from being able to be disseminated. They were ordered to by a court, and they continued to. Found ways around it and continued right on. They didn't even change, the labeling of some of the companies that they were ordered to shut down. These sub structure.
Yeah.
And in looking at other broadcasting entities, we see similar stuff because one can't let the other one get away with it. So I don't want to say those names because it's not in court yet. But you're going to find out that all four of the big ones that go to television broadcasting and advertising, and then their internet side, I believe all of them are going to get hit before this is over. We'll see.
Yeah. So do we have any rough waters ahead of us, or is the worst of it behind us?
Oh, fine. You haven't even got to the best part of the storm yet. Okay, we aren't even crap. You get a little freaking the boat rocked a little bit. Yeah, wait until that deck goes away from you about 50 times in a row. Okay? You feel like you're on a bungee cord. We are nowhere close to the worst of the worst. And by the way, the president going Putin trying to sort this out. There is an active movement right now behind the scenes within the financial community to fight back against the Trump tariffs on the basis of what's going on over in Gaza and Ukraine, what Trump's trying to do, with a non-Eurocentric resolution. They're not happy. So I had communications even earlier today based on stuff I've been doing over the last couple of weeks here that, the war is coming on dealing with this stuff. And you're at the center of all the banks have offices there at the city within the city. City of London. So I think the drama that's the one that's the most sensitive won't necessarily be the one with bullets, although a couple of the guys got nuclear weapons on either side. It's a standoff. It's the Cuban Missile Crisis on steroids, and but all the way to that moment, I think we're going to see, and of course that's what Trump's threatened. Look, I'm going to put sanctions on you, Russia, and then we're not, since the sanctions aren't working on Russia, we're going to put sanctions on anybody that trades with Russia. Primarily India and like that.
Yeah. So this has this is going to have some consequences, obviously, on the financial markets going forward, right? Because you're not going to have turmoil, and the markets are going to soar. How's it going to affect the stock market, the crypto market, the bond market, etc.?
Well, it's going to affect all of them. I mean, ripples in the stream. You throw a rock in the middle of the stream, the water has to go around it. They're going to throw some rocks in there. It's going to divert things and cause, other stuff. And then there's questions. One of the issues is there's a whole pile. There's so much you can't even imagine. Money that was created that's Federal Reserve notes. Think of this little dust up going on with Powell right now, and they spent $2.5 billion, and some of it wasn't authorized. They put a couple restrooms and a porta potty in there, and an elevator or two, and a private lunchroom, and secret getaway routes and all that. Okay, so what's really behind that? You think in any other normal situation they'd even worry about it over at Treasury? No, they're going to make us think about it. It's U.S. Treasury versus Federal Reserve, and in 50, a lot of people don't know this history. There was a lot of fallout after World War II to try to clean things. For example, with the IRS, they had started withholding. There was no withholding of tax money prior to World War II. But through the war, they started withholding tax money and from people's paycheck, so that it wasn't just a big amount of money at the end of the year they had to come up with. Prior to that, they had to save up all year and then pay their taxes, and it was, hard to get them to do it. But it was smaller amounts of money, and even through the war, it was still a relatively small amount of money. Mm-hmm. But as you got into the early 50s, a lot of patriots, people that were parents or grandparents of people in this audience, mostly grandparents, great-grandparents, were screaming bloody murder. This isn't fair, and the system doesn't allow you to do this, and it was imposed in a time of war, and we want you to stop withholding money on our checks. So they did a bunch of dance. Federal Reserve was included in it because, remember, the Federal Reserve and the IRS are tag teaming. IRS is no more federal than Federal Express, even though it has federal employees. Same as Federal Reserve. It's no more federal than Federal Express. It's a private banking group that is essentially contracted to manage the money supply and gets paid for doing that. Both of them have offices in Puerto Rico. Their offices where the money is received and transacted and all the work's done, they're Puerto Rican corporations. And before they were Puerto Rican, they were Filipino in the Philippines, and got moved to Puerto Rico when the Philippines broke off and declared its own, statehood. So in 1954, they cleaned up a lot of the regulations and code and all that by hiding it. They couldn't stop it from being in place. They just kind of took it away where you don't see it anymore, put it in a box somewhere. And when people go to cite it, well, it's not in the published code concerning things like taxes, but Federal Reserve also. So as you move forward now, in 54 too, Eisenhower wanted to kind of clean this up, and so established the Federal Open Market Committee to merge the activities of Federal Reserve and the Treasury. And it was oil and water. You really couldn't reconcile the Constitution with real money being gold and silver coin. And what Kennedy did later with the silver certificates, which was a receipt for silver on deposit at the Treasury, completely separate from Federal Reserve notes. In 54, Eisenhower tried to marry them together, okay, Hatfields and McCoys. It never has worked to this day. So now, right this second, there's all sorts of infighting going on because the Federal Reserve System is global. All of the banks are cooperating with the Federal Reserve System with currencies and the Forex and everything else and the value and blah, blah, blah. The U.S. Treasury is kind of odd man out. They're still holding that they have the right to create the currency for the American people, and Trump's doing things to kind of shut down what the Federal Reserve wants to do. And so he's dusting it up, kicking dust around at Powell and other stuff, and let's go audit the Fed, let's go audit the gold over at Fort Knox, and on whose authority was anything moved, and who still owns it, what about all the gold in New York, all sorts of things. That is what's really causing a rift out across the world in a BRICS world and everything else, okay, as Trump is throwing tariffs up and returning jobs to America. And the defensive operation to protect against that into the crypto world, into the paper money world, into the banking world is a very, very big deal, because Trump is favoring everything Treasury and wanting to close off, put a tourniquet on, stop what's going on over the Federal Reserve. And then I come back to where I started this conversation a few moments ago. The Federal Reserve System, the banker system, in collusion with three-letter agencies and others, have printed not just hundreds, not mere thousands, but thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pallets of money with $50 and $100 million on every pallet, and disseminated them to friends and buddies and all sorts of things all over the world. And technically, they're legitimate. And they've affixed certain stamps and identifiers to those pallets. The people receive them in lieu of or for services related to certain things, payoffs, etc. And it was decided who their friends and buddies were. And then this was all going to come back in the system. And similar to the dinars and the Zim bonds, they were flooding the world with paper currency. They were going to collapse the world's economy by bringing this into the digital system and hitting it on the street, very closely mirroring what we did to bring down the ruble. See, when we sent the ruble back into the Soviet Union, after we'd bought a whole bunch, moved them out of the country, we didn't move them, they brought them to us outside the country. That was part of the rules. And then we sold them back into the country. That rush of rubles collapsed their economy, brought the value of the ruble down by 40%. If you have too many rubles floating around, prices go up because they're just paper, okay? They were going to flood the world's economy with all this paper, and they were going to flood it into the digital system with obligations. When Hillary didn't win, that couldn't be done. They were going to collapse, and it wasn't just one thing to collapse it. Was multiple different directions. The dinars, the Zim bonds, all of the dollars on pallets everywhere coming in and flooding the system, collapsing the dollar. But the people that were holding some of that, they all thought, we're going to be rich. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be unbelievable. Oh, nobody told them that, yeah, you're going to have your own 747. It's only going to cost you $50 million. Well, the price is going to go up, because that's just paper. There's a whole bunch of it floating around. So instead of $50 million, that new Boeing 747, it's going to be $500 billion. Okay? They were going to collapse the system. that stuff is still sitting out there. It's an obligation. But from a different side, it was counterfeited into the system by people who did that fraudulently because they had a plan. They were treasonous traitors to collapse the system, to bring in the New World Order. And now that that's been somewhat thwarted, there's some of that we do have to honor, we will honor, but there's a whole bunch of it that's bullshit. And those people that have it are not happy because they all thought that they were going to be quadrillionaires in multiple lanes. They are pissed off. So at the end of the day, we're gonna have a little fight.
I'm sure. Does Donald Trump come in for a third term? Does he find a loophole to figure out a way to get back in 2028?
There's no loophole. If he wanted to, it's not a third term consecutive. It's a second term, and there's been plenty of debate on that. But I don't think that's what he wants to do. I don't necessarily think that's what's healthy for America. We have lots of people that are capable of running the country. And if you say there's only one guy, that means we're not very healthy as a country. We've got a lot of guys. And this next several years is about letting the right people come to the forefront, exercise some, authority, do their job, and the American people get to see them, rise to the top. And that's what we need. We got a lot of great people that are going to show up and that haven't had a clear.
A few more questions too, but I want to give you a plug. They can still find you at the jennifermack.com, correct? Guys, go show them some respect. Go get a book. Go get a T-shirt. Go get a shirt. As a matter of fact, somebody had me sign an autograph at the Quantum Summit where you have on the sleeve, you have Donald Trump like yelling, "Ah!" And I put my name there, Carmine.
Well, those jackets are great. The blanket's awesome. Jennifer has something on the parasites, a little special with her book going right now, and that's a big deal. There's also over at gumroad.com a little bit less on the prices just because we do it different with volume there. And so, and I do expect prices to continue to rise. As we pass into $40 an ounce on the silver, I won't hold too long before I raise the prices over there, but that's coming shortly as we head towards 50. So anyway, I've got to clear the deck here, and I've got an early morning meeting that people are expecting me at. So one more question that better clear. Go ahead.
Yeah. I predict that, Laura Trump and Eric Trump are groomed to become the next couple in the White House. Do you see that happening at all? Maybe next term?
No, not appropriate. We're not creating a royal family.
Okay.
And just because people have the skill sets and stuff and they've learned them and they've been around, being a family member does not make you President Trump. Okay. And I think it's people trying to portray things a certain way. I know lots of people in families that are very, very powerful in different countries, and it just presents wrong. And so if he wants to do something, give it a break and come back. We'll be ready for a different flavor as we get closer to the end of this. And so, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, brother, for coming, guys. We're going to play one last video before we go. You can stick around if you like. It's only 1 minute long, 1 minute and 9 seconds.
I'll do that, and appreciate everybody. Deep breaths. We're going to get through this. It's going to be amazing, and we'll do it with style. All right.
Absolutely. Well, here we go, guys. We just made this little piece. The movie is going to be free in the movie theaters. Absolutely. But we could definitely use a little donation, whether it's $5, $10, $20, whatever you can afford. Everybody doing a little bit equals a lot. We're trying to get a press release so that we can get this to land on Donald Trump's desk. That's really the gist of it. And I'm out a lot of money on this thing already. So
my name is Mel Carmine. This movie will be free to the general public to view in movie theaters and online when it is released. But let me be crystal clear. Freedom is not free. This documentary is still in production, and without your support, it may never reach the hearts and minds that need it most. While the enemy floods the world with lies and bullshit propaganda, we're putting everything on the line for you to expose the truth and defend our republic from collapsing into full-blown Marxist communism. This is America's final stand. If you understand what is truly at stake here, your donation isn't charity, it's your obligation. Whether it's $10, $50 or more, give what you can. Because if you can help and don't, what will you tell your grandchildren when they ask what side of history you were on in 2025? In the name of our Almighty God, do the right thing. Help us finish this fight. Everyone's freedom depends on it. President Donald J. Trump cannot do this alone. Stand with him. Stand with America. Use the link below to donate.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate
This
that.
has been a long battle.
Okay. That's probably a scam that they're trying to get you to send in your money so that they can double your XRP. Don't fall for that, guys. Please. Por favor. There's so many scammers out there. No one is gonna give you 1,000 XRP for sending in 500, or I'm gonna give you 2,000 XRP. Send me 500 first. I say, why don't you send me 1,500 and take my 500 right now? That's what I would do. But anyway, needless to say, I don't even waste your time with this shit. It's obviously a scam, right? Guys, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate every single one of you. Dear Mr. President.net, dear MR President.net is where you need to go. And it's going to be an incredible situation. I know a lot of the EE Center owners around the country are showing it so far. We got about 28 on the list and growing, which is great. And I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of this thing here. Okay. Did I figure it out? Yes. No. Removed. There we go. Perfect. So, we're trying to make some progress as far as getting it out to movie theaters. If you need to reach me to buy a large amount of XRP, by the way, the numbers are fudged. We got like 500 people watching on Rumble and 400 people watching. We got over close to 1,000 people, but the numbers here are showing 545, 543, whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's part of the same old bullshit. But if you want to show the movie and you want to do a big, you have a big place or a corporation, you want to show it to your company, you can do that. Get in touch with stayingalive.com, alive with 2 E's at the end. The other one belongs to the Bee Gees. Double E stands for energy enhancement. Okay, double E. The number's down at the bottom. I could get it for you if you hang in there. The number is, and tell me you want to be put on the list. 321-503-1670. That's our healing center in Cape Canaveral. 321-503-1670. Get on the list and show the movie to as many people as possible. We tried to go through a press release. The first one that pops up is a communist organization that's juiced in with Google. Unfortunately, that's what it is. And when we put out the press release, they said this doesn't qualify. Even if it was perfect, written according to their guidelines, they would have went to the website, dearmrpresident.net. They realized what this is about, trying to get our free speech back, trying to get our microphones back, and they would have stopped it anyway. So needless to say, if you guys have any press release access out there, get in touch with us and we'll send you the press release and let's get it out there. Also, if there's any podcasters that would like to rebroadcast the movie live when it comes out on the internet, get in touch with us as well at the center, and we'll make sure that we'll rebroadcast that on many, many channels for a 24-hour period when it comes out. Thank you, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.